Okay, in this video, we're looking at the simplification of a surd. Simplification of a surd. So like I explained before in the previous video, the simplification of a surd is the resolution of a surd into two factors. One of which is a perfect square and the other an imperfect square. So what we do in simplification of a surd is that we resolve the surd, or we break down the surd into two factors, one of which is a perfect square and the other an imperfect square. So we have an example here. Simplify square root of 50. So the square root of 50 is an example of a surd. Like I said before in the previous video, that a surd is an irrational number which does not have an exact root. So 50 does not have an exact root and is usually carrying this square root symbol. So we're asked here now to simplify the square root of 50. So the first thing that we're going to do is to resolve this number into two factors, to break down the number into two factors. So I'll come here, draw the factorization table, write 50 here. So what can go? What can divide 50? 2 can go. So 50 divided by 2 will give me 25. You should know that 25 is an example of a perfect square. So we have gotten two factors here now. 25, which is the perfect square, and 2, which is the imperfect square. So you should know that 2 times 25 will be equal to 50. This 2 times this 25 will be equal to 50. And 25 is an example of a perfect square. 2 is an imperfect square. So this is what the simplification of a surd is all about. It is the resolution of the surd into two factors, one of which is a perfect square and the other an imperfect square. So the square root of 50 now will be equal to the square root of 25 times 2. 25 times 2 is equal to 50. So having done this, I can now split the expression into 2. So this will be equal to the square root of 25 times the square root of 2. Square root of 25 times square root of 2 will give me the square root of 50. So 25 is an example of a perfect square. It is a perfect square, 2 is an imperfect square. So the square root of 25 is 5 times 2 does not have a square root, so it's an imperfect square, and so it does not have a square root. So this would be square root of 2. So 5 times square root of 2 is equal to 5 root 2. So this is the simplified form of the square root of 50. So this is our answer. So the other example that I have here is to solve the square root of 52. Solve square root of 52. So what we did here is what we're still going to repeat here. We're going to simplify this number. So in simplifying this number, the first thing that we do is to start factorizing the number. So what can divide 52? So 2 can divide 52. It's the smallest number that can divide it. So 52 divided by 2 will give us 26. Is 26 a perfect square? No, so we'll keep on dividing. 2 can go. 26 divided by 2 will give me 13. Is 13 a perfect square? No, 13 is an example of a prime number. So therefore, nothing else can divide it except 13. So what can go again is 13. 13 divided by 13 is 1. So if you look at these two numbers, I have 2 here. So I will come here and group it. 2 times 2 will give me 4. Then I have 13 here. So you should know that your 13 times 4 will be equal to 52. So with this, I've resolved this number into two factors. One of which is a perfect square. The 4 is a perfect square, while the 13 is an imperfect square. So this is what the simplification of a surd is all about. It's the resolution of a surd into two factors, one of which is a perfect square and the other an imperfect square. So the 4 here is the perfect square, 13 is the imperfect square. So the square root of 52 now will now be equal to the square root of 4 times 13. So having done this, I can now split the expression into 2. So this will be the square root of 4 times the square root of 13. So the square root of 4 will give me 2 because it's a perfect square. Square root of 4 is equal to 2 times, this is an imperfect square and it's a prime number, so you can no longer break it down. So this will be square root of 13. So 2 times square root of 13 will be equal to 2 root 13. So this is the answer to this question. So 2 root 13 is a simplified form of 52. So this is our answer.